Every night, after the stores close and Orchard Road becomes quiet, the cleaners enter a different version of the city. Below the polished marble, beneath the escalators, the glass, the perfume counters, and the luxury signs, there was once a cemetery. Not a small one. A vast Teochew burial ground known as Tai Shan Ting. Some accounts say there were 25 to 30,000 graves. And when the land was cleared, not everyone believed the dead had truly left. In the 19th century, long before Orchard became Singapore's shopping artery, this stretch of land was used by the Teochew community as burial ground. Tai Shan Ting stood near what we now call Orchard Road, Patterson Road, and Grange Road. For over a century, families came here with incense, paper offerings, food, and whispered names. The dead were not forgotten. They were visited. They were spoken to. They were part of living city. By the early 1950s, Orchard was changing. The city needed roads, buildings, hotels, cinemas, shops. The cemetery stood in the way of the future. So the graves were opened. Names were checked. Bones were gathered. Families were contacted where possible. But in every mass exhumation, there is one question nobody likes to ask. What happens to the graves with no one left to claim them? Years later, Ngee City rose over part of that former cemetery land. To shoppers, it was a landmark. To older Singaporeans who remembered the stories, it was something else. A place where the ground had been disturbed. A place where the dead had been moved quickly, carefully perhaps, but not always completely. And among night staff, one warning began to circulate. Do not answer if someone calls your name from an empty corridor. One account, often repeated by mall workers, begins after closing. A cleaner was assigned to a quiet service corridor behind the retail floors. He heard footsteps following him, not loud, not running, just steady. When he stopped, they stopped. When he pushed the trolley again, they continued. He turned around expecting a security guard. The corridor was empty. Then, from behind him, a woman's voice said his name. Another story comes from a security guard reviewing camera footage. At first, it looked ordinary. An escalator, a closed shopfront, reflections on the floor. Then a woman appeared near the landing. She did not walk in from either side. She was simply there. Her clothes looked old. Her head was lowered. And according to the guard, what disturbed him most was not that she appeared. It was that her reflection on the polished floor was facing a different way. The haunting stories are not always tied only to the cemetery. Some workers speak of wartime dead. Singapore's occupation years left trauma across the island, and Orchard was no exception to the city's fear. In some retellings, figures seen after midnight are not dressed like cemetery mourners. They look like civilians from another decade. Wet hair, bare feet, faces turned downward, as if they are still trying to find a road that no longer exists. Many people associate the story with Ngee City, but the old burial ground was not confined to one building footprint. Accounts place Tai Shan Ting across a much wider area of Orchard, including land around today's major malls and entertainment buildings. That is why the legend does not stay in one basement, one corridor, or one escalator. It moves, like a memory under the district. One former worker claimed that older staff sometimes left small offerings near service areas before major renovation work. Not officially, not publicly, just quietly. A few oranges, tea, incense. A gesture of respect to whatever might still be attached to the land. But one morning, after the offering was cleared away, it appeared again in the same place, fresh, untouched. No one admitted putting it there. Today, Orchard Road is brightness, commerce, glass, and movement. Millions pass over the old burial ground without knowing what once lay beneath their feet. Maybe the stories are only urban legend. Maybe the footsteps are pipes, reflections, tired night staff, and imagination. But in a city that constantly rebuilds itself, the past does not disappear. It is layered, covered, renamed, lit by storefronts. And sometimes, after midnight, when the shutters are down and the escalators stop moving, someone still walks through them all, as if searching for a grave that is no longer there.